My name is Pertti Hakala, and I'm here today to talk about time management for new teams. And I decided to tweak the title of the presentation a bit, but the content is basically the same. And my voice is a bit raspy today, must be the allergies. Let's hope that it will stay good enough for the show. So, first a few words about myself. In my present life, I am a media content designer by study. I studied it at the Lahti Institute of Design. I also have a day job. I work as a gameplay capturer at Onit Films, which is the in-house video production company of Supercell. So we basically do the community videos for Supercell games. In short, my day job is basically playing games, and the long version is maybe a bit too complicated to explain in this short presentation. And I'm also co-founder at Conifer Digital, which is our small indie game company. And there my main responsibilities are programming, game design, QA, and project management / organization. So few hats. Of course, all of us do many things, but these are my main responsibilities. And in the past, I've been a chef and also a co-founder and the product development manager at Poikaan Parhaat, which is a beverage company based on Tampere. Okay, then a few words about Conifer Digital. So basically, a few years back, we started working on Versebound as a serious hobby project, as we like to talk about it. Including me, there was three of us, Yuri and Jonas. Also, we all studied at the same school, and yeah, we enjoyed working on school projects together and had this kind of quite a successful game development course where we did this small mobile game together, and then we kind of started thinking about should we make something else, and that's basically the first few steps we took. And we had no prior experience. I had been a hobbyist programmer for 1 year, basically learning through YouTube and smashing my head to the wall. There was no AI back then, so I had to dig through Stack Overflow and Unity forums and stuff like that. And well, of course, all of us had like our strong points in the creative side, but regarding game dev, we did not have any proper experience. And we also had limited amounts of funds and time. We were all studying in the Lahti Design Institute back then. Fast forward until autumn 23, we basically wanted to release Versebound on Steam, and for that we needed a company. So we founded one. Then a bit over than 1 year ago, we finally released Versebound on Steam after a bit over 2 years of work. Then we were coasting for a while, thinking about what should we do next. And finally, in the beginning of this year, we started working on a new project. And also, we got a new member to our team, Aapo, who is one of my oldest friends and also has studied game development in JAMK, so the University of Applied Sciences of Jyväskylä. So now we are a 4-person team. 1 month ago, Versebound got its console release through a publisher called Silesia Games. They are a small team from Poland, a bunch of great people. Super nice to work with them. So now Versebound is on Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation, and of course Steam. And if we stay on track, we shall release our second game in January of 27. So, why do we want to manage our time? This applies to most of us. Time is the main resource we have available, especially new teams quite often might not have lots of funds available, so we need to do most of the things ourselves, and time is a variable that is limited, so we need to use it effectively. And work is of course not the only thing we need to do. We also need to rest. We might have a day job, need to work on the project, and while doing that also learning new concepts. So it's pretty easy to lose track of where the time goes. And if we end up with too much stuff to do, the quality of our work goes down, our energy resources go down, and sadness comes. I like to visualize concepts quite often, and for this one I came with this cool box where we basically want to put everything we need to do. And here you can see that most of the box is filled everything other than actually game development. And the goal is to keep the box inside its frames, so we don't want it to overflow. And in this example, we have not achieved that. So let's check if we can do something about it. So how to manage time? First, we can manage the box amount, aka set up a schedule. More boxes means more time. Then we can have less pieces inside of the box, aka work on less things. Then we can have smaller pieces, which means doing work more efficiently. And we also want to remove clutter, so we have more room for actual work. So let's start with managing the box amount. First, before anything else, we need to pick a fitting project for our team. So how much do we have time available? How much do you have time available? How much do your team members have time available? Some of you might have day jobs or kids to look after or some other responsibilities. And what are the skills of your team? So are you proficient at programming or 3D modeling or writing compelling stories? The more skills you have, less time it takes to do stuff. And it's also super important to dedicate time for learning new concepts. The less skills you have, the more new concepts you'll need to learn. And it can be pretty difficult to evaluate the time is required for learning new concepts, because obviously you don't have any experience on that front yet. And then there's also the unknown variables. I think most who have worked with game projects have experienced like finding a bug or something that doesn't work quite well, and then you basically don't have any idea if it will take 10 minutes to fix or 10 hours to fix. So it's better to dedicate some time for those things as well. And also have a deadline. It's so much easier to plan and schedule your project, your work, if you know how much time you have available. If you don't set up a deadline, you can just end up coasting and avoiding the not so fun aspects of the project. And how we do these things currently is that our plan is to do these kind of smaller projects for a while, since, as mentioned, we are not so experienced yet. So we'll tackle these smaller pieces first and learn concepts while we work on the projects. So in the future, we can have a lot bigger toolkit in our hands. Thus, we are able to plan our work better. And here is a thing we have done for our current project. We have set up these learning goals, which include, for example, localization. So we'll learn how to do it. This project is a good one for that, since there's not a lot of text to translate. So we'll just need to learn the basics, and in the future, if we do a bit more narrative-driven game, we can then know a bit more about the workload localization will cause. And yeah, all of these snippets from our projects are in Finnish, because our working language is Finnish, but I will try to explain these as best as I can. Anteeksi, nyt juon vettä. Okay, so how can we have less pieces, aka work on less things? After you have set up a project you're working with, I think it's quite important to plan an MVP, aka the minimum viable product. You can ask yourself, what is the smallest thing you can be happy with? So divide stuff to critical and nice to have. What is the smallest version of the game that you can be happy releasing? You can use that as a reference point for making decisions within the project. And as you categorize stuff with must have and nice to have, it's easier to dodge the scope creep. Well, at least I have watched a lot of YouTube game dev videos, and most of them follow a certain I'm missing the word, but it's like a loop. They always start a new project, then they are super psyched about it, end up doing a fishing mini game and lots of cosmetics and cool boss fights, but then the core loop is all over the place, and at some point they'll start a new project because the last one didn't work out. So know what to focus on. One thing we have implemented for our new project is to also categorize stuff into must-have and nice-to-have categories inside of our GDD, aka the game design document. Here is a snippet of our player flow. So as the player launches the game, they click the play button, then they spawn in the hub and jump into the level selection portal. Then there's a UI panel where they'll choose the checkpoint they'll want to start from. And then as a nice to have thing, if we will have time, we'll do this cool camera tracking thing where the player can see the level for a few seconds until it transforms into the player view, and then the actual level starts. So if we have time in the future, we might add this thing. Next up, how can we work more efficiently? So basically making the pieces smaller. Design and plan your tasks first. This is quite an easy step to skip. It's so much easier and more fun to just start working on some idea, but it can lead to, well, lots of problems. So if you take a bit of front-loaded work and put some time into actually designing what you're going to do, planning on how, let's say, some system is going to communicate with other parts of your project, or how some, okay, let's say that you're doing like a hack and slash game and you want to implement the fear condition to the enemies. They'll start running away from you as you inflict the fear. How will this status effect communicate with the basic movement logic of an enemy? Let's say that you have a dashing enemy. If it's inflicted with the fear as it dashes, what happens? Take these things into account before starting anything. So basically, as you plan things well, you might be able to see potential problems in your logic beforehand. And as you can take those into account, you can maybe reduce some reworks in the future. And it's also so much easier to jump into the work faster as you have a plan. I, for example, haven't had that much time to work on our project in the past week, since I had a summer cottage visit in the weekend. Then I've been planning the launch party of our console version of Versebound, among other things. So now I'm a bit like out of the loop with our project. But as I know that I'm going to work on the UI logic of our game and I have a good plan, it's just super easy to just whip out the plan and see what do I need to do. Know what to plan. Let's say that you are doing some, well, in our game, there's going to be these interactive props that the player can interact with. They are there just for use and world building, so they don't serve any actual purpose mechanic wise for the player. So it's kind of this like nice little thing, and it doesn't communicate with any other systems than the player movement. So I don't really need to plan so much for those things, but for many other things we'll need to do that. And after planning, it's important to put the plans to work, so don't get stuck into the endless loop of planning and planning and planning. at some point you'll need to start doing the things you planned for yourself. I think I've never used the word plan this many times in a row. And well, everyone who knows me knows that I am a Miro board fanatic. I do lots of them. And here is a snippet of, well, it's not a snippet, it's our complete UI plan. And as I have designed all of these different panels, it's easy to see which kind of graphical elements we need, where can we go from each menu, lots of different things. So with this, it's quite easy to also track where am I going. All right. Next one is also for the more efficient work. Let's try to avoid over-engineering. So when you're making a system, think beforehand, how scalable does it need to be? How robust does it need to be? If you're making soup for yourself, you don't need a 20-liter pot for it. So just do it as well as it's needed. Also, we want to avoid unnecessary polish. I'm always wondering, am I talking about the Polish people or Polish, but I think we know what I'm aiming for here. One experience on that front is from Versebound, when I had a bit more time in my hands, and I love to tinker around with particle systems, and there's a lot of them in Versebound. And I can remember many instances when it's like 3 a.m. and I've been tweaking some particle fading and colors and noise for like 3 hours, and the whole system stays on the screen for 1 second every once in a while. And well, that is some time that I could have maybe used for something more important. These are sometimes pretty difficult to avoid because you might get sucked into making cool stuff, but if you have a plan, you can check if you have time for it. Also, premature optimization. Well, I'm not a programmer by profession, but I have heard that many people who are can be a bit it's a part of their like work pride that people love to craft these perfect optimized scalable systems, but if your game already runs 60 FPS on like a mid-tier laptop, it's really not needed. So optimize only when it's actually worth it. So to conclude this, I would say that, well, this is something we do, that just make things good enough, then move on and start fixing stuff when you know what to fix. And by that I mean that when you get some unbiased feedback about the game, QA tests, or you release your first public demo and you start getting feedback that, okay, the third world, the lava area is really laggy and it's difficult to see the enemy projectiles and the animations feel clumsy, then you can know that, okay, maybe we should do something about those. Next up, removing clutter. So how to leave more room for actual work. Focus on what's on your plate.
We all know that game dev is hugely complicated. There's lots of categories to track and lots of individual tasks. And if everyone is trying to take care of everything and stay on track about level design and 3D art and SFXs and Steam page setup and marketing QA, it's pretty easy to lose track on what am I supposed to do right now. And for that, it's nice if you can share responsibilities within your team and make it official as well. What we have done is that we have basically divided all the categories of our new project into different parts and basically written down what are the responsibilities of each category, and then we have decided the owners for them. So whenever I work on our project, I know that my areas are code, including bugs, unfortunately, mechanical design, and QA. Then if I need to know something about level design, I know that I'll need to talk to Yuri. And this basically frees my mind to only focus on what is needed. I don't even need to know what Yuri has thought about the lore of our game or how is the VFX side looking. Then another one for removing clutter. Having a good pipeline for communication. As you're working in a team environment, it's kind of obvious that communication is one of the most important aspects within the team. If you know where to talk about each subject, you can waste less time searching for answers. As we just talked about game dev having lots of categories to work on and hundreds or thousands of small little decisions to make. What is the color of the drop shadow in this UI element, or how long does this panel take to pop up, or whatever. We all know that there is going to be lots of talking about different things. And if you come up with a good way of communicating, as a bonus, you can also reduce miscommunication, which can lead to doing less reworks. And documentation is also communication. This is my opinion. Someone might disagree, but well, that's fine. Do it when needed. I think everything doesn't need to be documented. And that's also something that you can easily learn as you go from experience even. Let's say that you are creating logic for some enemy, and when the player hits the enemy with a strong attack, the enemy needs to do like a knockback animation. And you have set up these placeholder animations, and your logic calls the animation clip by a string name. And then your 3D artist makes the animations and updates them, and suddenly it stops working. But yeah, the animations stop working, and you forgot to tell the 3D artist that, oh yeah, you needed to name the animation clips with a specific name in the Unity animator. So for those things, it can be useful to documentate stuff. Here is the way we do communication. I just showed you the categorization of the different aspects of our project. We have matching Discord channels for each. And for example, inside the level design channel, we can chat about, well, level design. And even inside of the channel, we can have chats about different subjects using threads. So here, Yuri has started a discussion about the fourth part of our first level. And this is how our level features documentation looks like. So whenever Yuri is working with level design, he knows that these are the pieces he has available. There's different materials for platforms. There's different types of platforms. And there is also different obstacles with unique logic. And he basically just needs to go here and look, okay, this is my first time using the glass platform. What do I need to take into account? Okay, so we have now picked a fitting project. We have gotten rid of the fishing minigame. We have made our pieces smaller, and we have removed the clutter. So are we good now? Well, to know if we are actually heading towards the correct direction, it's also good to monitor your work to stay updated if the plans are planning. And one way to do that is to make a habit out of it. We have a meeting with our team every... Now I started to think, do I have the... Oh yeah, I'm still sharing the screen. Yeah. We have a meeting every 2 weeks. And during each of these meetings, we set up these sprint goals where we basically decide what we want to get done within the next 2 weeks. And in the next sprint meeting, bi-weekly meeting, we check if we manage to reach these goals. And if not, then it's quite easy to assess the situation and see that, okay, do we need to drop something from the project, or can someone help with these tasks, or how do we deal with the situation? One thing I personally do is that I have created this project timeline for myself, where I basically have all the important dates set up. Here is the launch of our Steam page and the first demo. Here is the next fest. Here's the release. And with this information, it's pretty easy to basically divide everything I need to do for this timeline. And now I'm going here and I can easily check what do I need to do during this month of June. And if, let's say that my plans would not hold, then I could quite easily see that these blocks would start moving here, and suddenly I have like 10 things in August. And well, at that point, it's already too late, but I hope that I would maybe then react to that earlier. So to recap, know your resources, pick a project you can do. The word you is super important. Every team is a bit different. every team has different amounts of time and different skill levels. Plan your work, execute, monitor your work, release the game, and also do better next time. It's a complicated subject, so we all learn as we go. And well, I can say for myself that now that we have worked on this new project of ours, even though there's still many things that we feel like, oh damn, it's not going too well, it's still easy to see to the past when we started with Versebound and we were like so completely clueless about everything. So just if you can compare yourself to the past, you can see how much progress you have made, and if you focus on it, you can keep that line going upwards. Yeah, that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pertti. Does anyone? It seems like there's at least one question maybe coming in.
Cool.
Yes, there come a question. Do you plan the number of hours early in the project vs commercial goals for the project?
We tried planning some hours for Versebound, but we realized that we are not experienced enough to actually make any use out of planning. And also, since our level of experience is not high enough yet to know so well how things are going to go, so we have basically stripped away the that level of planning for now.
Well, there comes a question, and actually have a question. Did you all know already which skills you had that complemented each other?
Yes and no. Yuri is a super skilled visual artist, but he, for example, had never made any pixel art before. But during the project, I forgot to mention that he's like a 3D specialist. But during the project, he realized that okay, I can actually make the sprites as 3D models first, and then kind of rotoscope them. So basically, have the correct poses for the animations, and then draw over it in pixel art style. And through this method, our game has these really nice and smooth and realistic looking pieces of art, which would not have been possible without Yuri's 3D expertise, even though it's a 2D pixel art game. I don't know if this answered the question, but partly yes, partly no.
Yeah, it answered it pretty well. There's actually
Yes.
another question. How about later in the project? Do you think about what to drop because of time available?
Well, for Versebound, we had bigger plans that we ended up actually accomplishing. And well, I think at least for me, it was pretty easy to see that, okay, do I need to do more power-ups or the final boss of the game? So we had already basically tidied the project quite a lot. And at that point, it was easy to drop everything unnecessary. But I'm pretty sure that it can be a different situation for each team. But I also feel that as you have a tight core loop, you have tested your game well, you have gotten lots of unbiased feedback, you already know what the players enjoy, so then you can double down on that. And just try to do that as well as you can.
I think there might maybe become one more question. We can probably take one more question and then take a break.
Yeah.
When do you decide to outsource your work if the workflow is not achieved or there is a lack of skills in the team?
Well, we have been lucky in the sense that we have no money. It might sound counterintuitive, but well, Versebound sold, I think, under 1,000 copies. So, well, not zero, but not anything near to actually get any proper money out of it. But we do have a small budget for our next game. And for that project, we have already made the budget. So we know that we are outsourcing music. We actually already have a nice artist. And we are also outsourcing the localization for obvious reasons and the key art. So basically the Steam capsule. And yeah, that's basically where all of the budget goes. So we don't even have the possibility of considering outsourcing more stuff. But for a team that does have some leeway regarding the funds, I guess it could be best to try to outsource a complete kind of category. Let's say that you need more time for art. So you can consider, for example, outsourcing all the UI. So then it stays coherent, and yeah, I think that's possible.
Thank you, Pertti.
Thank you.